50 for the win and a spot in the national championship game.
Are you ready?
McCarthy incomplete and picked off. Intercepted by D-Winners.
They think you can tell us what to do.
Bennett from the pocket. Launches to the end zone. Caught. Touchdown. A.D. Mitchell.
You think that you're better?
Duggan dumps it off short. Quentin Johnston has the first down. No flags. The magic continues.
Break it down.
Welcome to the College Football X on the OSG Sports Podcasting Network.
Happy New Year, everybody, and welcome to another year and another episode of the College Football X. X marks the spot. This is the spot for college football, all the breakdown, all the action, all the craziness, all the insanity. Talk about going out of 2022's season with a bang, guys. There were some crazy football games that happened on Friday. There's some other games during the week, and we'll get to those in a few minutes. But you have to start with the semifinals, and I don't know if the college football playoff could have possibly scripted two more dramatic games than the Fiesta Bowl and the Peach Bowl.
I'm deferring to Marty for opening statement.
I feel dirty. I feel abused. Although the Schadenfreude of the first game just it salved all my wounds.
We'll go since we went there first. We're talking about Georgia's come from behind win over Ohio State, 42-41. In one of the more classic college football games you will ever see. Ohio State came out of the blocks ready to roll. C.J. Stroud looked like every bit of the hype that we thought he was going to have at the beginning of the season.
Yeah.
For the most part, they controlled the game, and somehow, some way, Georgia stuck around, did just enough that they didn't get blown out. And in the fourth quarter, they kicked it up a notch, and they're going to walk away with a win that started in 2022 and ended just a few seconds into 2023.
I defer my second comment to Marty.
We're going to start talking about referees, or where are we going?
Hey, it's all you, brother.
I just hate to see like that timeout. I'm a homer for Ohio State, so I'm just going to put that right out in front. That timeout and then the targeting call. Okay, if you're going to say that's not targeting, it is unnecessary roughness. When you watch that reverse angle of it and you see him just launching for him like that, that was dirty.
It was interesting to hear Bill Lemineer's analysis on the timeout call, where apparently, if I heard it correctly, if the official hears you say timeout even before he sees you say timeout, it still counts.
Yeah.
And so I thought that was interesting because, frankly, I didn't know that. But if that's the case, I get it. And where the targeting call is concerned, really, I think that we've had so many instances in general when it comes to targeting where evidence and camera angles or lack of camera angles or whatever is the defining factor. I think that if we're all mad at targeting, I think we need to change the rule. And I think that's probably the larger issue here. Instead of the implementation of it, if you don't like how things are being laid out in game day situation, then change the rule and have it reflect something else that is a wider berth, where you can sit there and say either, Marty, as you're saying, unnecessary roughness versus targeting. I think that if you widen the definition a little bit, you may end up getting more calls that are going to benefit the athlete, and at the same time be more definitive when it comes to calling the actual penalty. And Ryan Day said it after the game. Not having Marvin Harrison definitely was a difference. And that was one of the nastiest hits I have seen in quite some time. And you could tell that the offense wasn't the same without Marvin Harrison.
No, that was really the big turning point to me, was when Marvin Harrison was out of the game and they took his helmet away. CJ Stroud didn't have that comfort level, that go-to guy, as he was proving to be throughout the game. Really, Georgia didn't have an answer for Marvin Harrison Jr. And when he was out, it was all really up to CJ Stroud. And that guy just shot up the NFL draft list. He may be
for sure.
He may be the second quarterback taken. He might be the first quarterback taken. I don't know. But to see the poise and the accuracy and the arm strength that he had, plus the mobility, which is something I really didn't, he really hadn't shown that.
Yeah.
And he showed it this time. And now he just has one more weapon in his arsenal that NFL scouts are going to love. But the effort that he showed, I would have voted for MVP no matter what the outcome of the game was for Ohio State.
Yeah.
He was the MVP of that game.
Sure.
And I was so impressed with his performance and Ohio State's, how they stayed aggressive and
until the end.
Until the end. But, to me, at the end with the officials, I guess it kind of proves how human the human element can be when you're in these pressure-packed situations. When did the side judge hear Kirby Smart say timeout? Was it at the snap? Obviously, the explanation. Yeah, I know. I mean, the explanation was something along the lines of once they hear it that ends everything, and that's when the timeout's granted. And so, to me, it was dumb luck. I mean, the coaching staff recognized the formation. I kind of saw it too. It looked kind of odd to me, but it worked. And but they got the timeout in. But the targeting, you got to be consistent with that. And that's the thing about the targeting rule that I don't like. It's just not consistent.
It's a 4-point swing in a 1-point game.
Yeah, the other thing that really stood out, and we talked about this before we started this show, is that fourth down pass to Brock Bowers. That camera angle on the sideline is one I don't think they've ever had in a college football game. And if that camera had not existed, there would be no way to see what happened in that play.
See, I'm wondering if that was piped in from, I don't think about it, from the officials where they're looking at the bank of replays. I wonder if that was piped into the truck. And maybe that's something that
Pittsburgh.
we've not seen from a regular season. Now, this is a playoff game.
Yeah.
So it's probably a different setup.
Because we did see
in a regular season game.
We did see multiple pylon cams on display at the lines at the line of scrimmage, and so my guess is that with all of the multiple cameras that were added to these presentations, you've got more toys at your disposal, and you end up with that double pylon cam, and then you see, okay, so if we take the x-axis and the y-axis and the z-axis and look at pitch and yaw, and we see, that Brock Bowers has made it and he's not fully out of bounds. And I had to explain that to folks too. It's like he's not fully out of bounds. He's in the air. The ball hits the mark for the first down. Yeah, I mean, I think that under normal circumstances, we wouldn't have that kind of a camera at our disposal.
Yeah, I mean, they rendered it, but did they render it correctly? Did somebody plotting points randomly, from not on site? So, I mean, that's just to see something used that's never been used before. I'm just like, okay, we're going to make up some rules as we go along. Jesus.
Hey, it's Marty, it's a TV show.
The camera exists. You can't deny that it's.
Oh yeah, no, the camera. I've never seen them making an angle come up in the.
Yeah.
Oh, like the little bar graph thing.
Yeah.
Like I say, I wonder if that's something that was in the bank of monitors for the replay officials that was piped into the truck just for this circumstance. We've never known about it. It might be in the officials' room during regular season, but never piped into the truck and something they look at. Who knows? Because we're talking about it, and I'm sure other people are talking about, hey, what was that bar graph we saw?
Mhm.
We never see that before. So that's kind of what I'm thinking here. But we've kind of picked apart the last couple of minutes. To me, we had two college football heavyweights that delivered a classic game.
Mhm.
Yep.
And I've said all along, this is the one I was looking forward to because it's two college football's heavyweights going at it with a huge something in stake that is huge. And it turned out to be a game we're going to talk about in the next 20. Well, Marty's going to forget about it, but the rest of us will talk about it for the next 20 years.
But Marty's gone to earmuffs already.
Props to all the depth, though. I mean, you had a tight end coming in that wasn't hardly played all year, who had the best throw in the game. I don't know if you saw when they you saw a little bit coming out the back of his helmet, but when they showed his picture at the bottom, just like, wow. Then you had Rossi, another former walk-on, who they had to put in at running back because nobody else left really knew the blitz pickups besides a guy that's a fullback tight end hybrid.
Mm-hmm.
Props to them for just keep plugging in guys and keep going.
I mean, they got down, they continued to stay down, but they did enough to where they were never never not in reach of winning the game. And as bad as Stetson Bennett played for basically the second and third quarter of that game, in the fourth quarter, he was brilliant.
10 of 12, 190 yards, 2 touchdowns, and a perfect passer rating of 158.3 in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, that guy sliding while he's in coverage probably didn't hurt the accuracy of that pass.
Oh, yeah.
No, yeah.
And then the touchdown pass at the end of the game to A.D. Mitchell was a beautiful pass. I mean, he put it in the perfect place.
I just wonder if that turf monster that got the corner was the same one that got the running back for Georgia.
Yeah.
Like when they actually called the tackle on the turf monster during the game.
Yeah.
You got a couple of tackles in the stat sheet, right?
Yeah.
But the turf monster was fair. It took out one person from each team.
Exactly.
Yes. On meaningful plays.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, Stetson Bennett just made some poor decisions in the second and third quarter and rectified that in the fourth quarter, and the legend continues. I mean, if they defeat TCU, I mean, this guy's story is just off the charts with back-to-back national titles in his history. And he's proud. He might. Is he going to sniff the NFL? Probably not.
I think he'll get a free agent deal if he wants one.
I don't know. Is there going to be a story on the talent evaluators that turned him away when he initially got to Georgia?
Oh, absolutely. Everybody who and I've covered Stetson since he was a junior and a senior at Pierce County High School in Blackshear, Georgia, and you knew that the ability was there, and the vision was there, and the talent was there for Stetson. But he was and once again, having just passed National Signing Day, a little over a week ago, he was a 0 star, a 0 star. And we all know really what the stars mean. It's
everything.
Everything. It's what you do with the individual as opposed to the stars attached to that individual going in. We know of no star, 1 star, 2 stars that have turned into world beaters when it comes to the game of football. And so, all right, fine, you're a no star, you go to JUCO, you light it up at JUCO like you did in high school, and then you get your chance at the University of Georgia. So, as much time as I spend staring at recruits and recruiting in 4-star, 5-star, to me, it's what do you do when you're placed in these situations? And we've seen what Stetson Bennett, when he is put in these situations, the first 3 quarters, he was freaked out at times. I mean, there was pressure, Marty, from Ohio State that had him guessing and short-arming and second-guessing and all of that. And the defense for Ohio State deserves a lot of credit for having Stetson Bennett make decisions and force himself into decisions that he would not be making otherwise. But that fourth quarter happened, and we saw what Stetson Bennett can do. But, yeah, and Kirby Smart lit him up at halftime, lit him up after the game because, you got another game to play. But I give I give Ohio State a lot of credit for what they were doing in mixing up their looks and confusing Stetson Bennett for the first 3 quarters. But then at the same time in the fourth quarter, we saw what Stetson Bennett has been able to do over the last 2 years in Athens for the University of Georgia.
Yeah, I give Jim Knowles a lot of credit. A lot of people were getting down on him, a lot of Ohio State fans. But I'm like, you got to realize he got there after signing period last year. They basically hired him during the playoffs last year. So nobody on that team is recruited. The one guy that was second string quarterback was brought in from Arizona, who was a running back turned into a linebacker. Their depth all over the place, took hits. They had the one guy famously quit during a game last year.
Yes, remember that.
A total of 3 guys transferred out from that depth, and those were all guys that wouldn't graduate for another year yet. So that guy's dealing with a little bit of not his type of guys and not a lot of depth, where they were converting people over and playing people a little too early. But I mean, that was just impressive.
Turf Monster did not get a defensive stat for either team.
I counted at least 2 tackles.
Yeah, but team for Georgia carried twice for -2 yards. So I don't know how many stars team had, but I don't know if he's going to be getting a whole lot of reps against TCU.
Probably not. And speaking of TCU, that was the game leading up to the 8 o'clock, the Georgia Ohio State.
It caused a late kickoff. It was so stupid.
Michigan was heavily favored heading into that game with TCU, and everybody who bought into that, well, they probably lost a little bit of money, because TCU showed the world they are legit.
Yeah.
Big time. Big time. And for someone like me and the rest of the children of the Southwest Conference who remember when TCU was a cellar dweller,
Oh, yeah.
I am shocked that TCU is playing for a national championship.
Both didn't want them when they
Yeah, it's right. I mean, nobody wanted them when the major college and the group of 5 was established, and they had enough success where the Big 12 said, well, we need some people because people are jumping our ship. And they've turned out to be, Gary Patterson built that. Actually, it was Pat Sullivan that built it before that. And then Gary Patterson had his own unique way of coaching and maintained the excellence at TCU. And now Sonny Dykes is just elevated it to the point where they're playing for a national championship. And for someone like me, I mean, seeing TCU playing Georgia for a national title, it just blows my mind. But that is a complete team.
I defer my opening comment to Marty.
The Big 12 championship, they hardly even had anybody show up.
Yeah.
And it's just crazy. Like, I hope their fan base gets out and supports them, because, I mean, that was in town.
Yeah.
Their home stadium and Jerry World are 10 miles apart, 15 miles apart. I hope they get and show out. It was nice seeing, it's just crazy. Like, from the DFW area, you have all these SMU alumni. They're going to be very pissed off, and they're probably just going to hate watch that game. But I mean, all props to them, because they were what? So if they extended the rankings, what would they have been preseason?
They were I think they started the season 17th.
No, they were unranked.
No, they were unranked. And I would probably be in the 30s somewhere, because I think they were picked to be 5th in the Big 12. And
I saw some as low as 7th.
True. But
7 last year.
Yeah, that's just,
You
you have 2 quarterbacks that are complete opposites. You got one that's fairly cocky, and you've got the exact opposite for TCU, who's just a humble kid who's just happy to be there. I mean, I'm going to be slighted because, I hate Michigan with a fiery passion.
And that was why I deferred.
And I'm not angry. Even with Ohio State losing, seeing Michigan lose like that just makes me, it warms my soul.
But you know what?
Talked about how Michigan was so physical and they were going to push TCU around.
Yeah, it's Big Ten football
because they had all these big leaders.
Well, Phil, that pattern was developing when you got into the third quarter, because Michigan got the quick scores, right?
Yeah.
And they looked like they were starting to wear down TCU. Only that TCU answered and then answered on a defensive play.
Mhm.
So that misnomer was gone. But I'll give Michigan credit. They kept putting the foot to the pedal, but TCU was coming up with big defensive stops and turnovers.
Mhm.
And this is why I think TCU is the most complete team right now in college football. They've got one of the best quarterbacks in the country. They've got a defense that's opportunistic, gets interceptions, gets turnovers. And to me, they dominated the line play, both the offense and defensive line. And I think that was a shock to a lot of people as to how well TCU played in the interior. And to me, that was the reason why they defeated Michigan. They answered every call that Michigan put up. And Michigan rallied and came back, but TCU didn't fold like other teams would have folded in the fourth quarter. And that's why the Horned Frogs, and I'm looking forward to their game against Georgia.
Guys,
I hope they
did you
get as
see
much bulletin board material because, JJ McCarthy, middle of the week saying if they run that 3-3-5, we're going to jam it down their throat. I mean, he did his O-line no favors there.
No, that we were talking earlier about replay and controversial calls. This game was not without some controversial calls as well. Michigan's first touchdown ended up not really being a touchdown because they ruled the ball down on that 1/2 foot line, and then the Wolverines fumbled on the very next play.
Yes, they did.
Is there a Schadenfreude emoji?
Yeah.
Hey, throwing 2 pick sixes, you're not going to win.
No, but it sure the heck looked like even on the replay that kid crossed the end zone.
But hey.
Now, where was that magical, what they used to Prager? Were they using like algebra, mathematics, making graphics? Where was it for that play?
I know it was not
true.
It was not.
That's a perfect play like that. And with the end line cams, those you could actually render correctly because you're going from one to another.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
that's true.
Amazing. There's a little controversy with JJ's dad as well. I don't know if you guys saw any of that.
What was up with him?
Yeah.
His hands kept glancing JJ's girlfriend.
I did notice that.
I kept seeing screenshots they were getting, they were full on memes within 5 minutes of it happening.
Well, but did you notice when they would go to that 4 shot of JJ McCarthy's mom and dad, the girlfriend, and like the other moms of the other players? And the boss pointed this out to me. I wasn't really locked into the extent that she was when they would go to that shot. But every single time that something good happened for JJ McCarthy and they went to that section, the mom was always hugging the other moms or the dad, not hugging the girlfriend.
Oh.
The mom was turning to her right and hugging the other moms or hugging the dad. Like I said, don't know if there's any connection, but every single time they would go to that shot.
Well, JJ
nice
McCarthy's girlfriend is going to be like the Alabama quarterback's girlfriend.
Catherine Webb?
Karen. Yeah.
Catherine Webb, AJ McCarron.
Where was Brent Musburger when you needed him, right?
He was at home making the same comments.
Yeah. But you also did not get the same kind of, I think that they probably had this entire dossier of everything involving every Michigan player where they could see, because I think it was what, Sean McDonough and Todd Blackledge. They were saying everything possible in the dossier about JJ McCarthy and the family and every Michigan player. And it's like they didn't have any information at all on the TCU guys.
See, I was watching the hometown
that giant
feeds.
That giant flip card that McDonough showed at one point when they went up to the booth shot.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys saw that, but he had the biggest flip chart board I've ever seen. And it was full.
Now, towards the end of the game, speaking of crowd shots, when they showed Harbaugh's dad and his questionable use of the timeouts at the end of the game.
Yes.
I could swear I saw his dad mouth the words, "Your brother's the smart one."
That's awesome.
It could be just me. I don't know.
Your brother's the smart one. Your brother's the smart one.
You did see him shaking his head.
Oh yeah, that cutaway of the dad where with the timeouts, and he's just going. He looks like, what are you doing? Literally, the look on his face. It's like it's full scrunch face. He's like,
Well, that's going to be in the debrief afterwards.
oh my.
That was my
yes.
top meme, followed by the guy in the clown wig, and the two fat guys with the leather.
Oh, the
winged
leather.
helmets.
Oh, the leather helmet. Yeah.
Props to them. I don't know where they got their hands on those, but those were the actual, leather winged pattern
Yeah.
helmets.
With the ear flap.
Oh,
Yeah.
oh my God, yeah, that was one of the best cutaways of the day by far.
Mm-hmm.
And the look on his face.
That was better than Harbaugh's youngest son crying at the Ohio State game from a few years back in Defeat Cobra Kid. Although the clown did do the Defeat Cobra.
Surrender Cobra. Wow. Yeah.
Guys, how about the performance of TCU quarterback Max Dugan?
He's all right. He's okay.
The kid, I think I don't know how he got overlooked in the Heisman this year. Everything that he has done is productive for the team.
Because it was TCU.
Dugan, I'm looking up the statistics here. 14 for 29, 225, and a couple of touchdowns, but he also ran for 57 yards and a couple of touchdowns.
Well, and he had a rough start. I think he completed his last 7 passes to get to that number. I mean, at one point, he had only completed a third of his attempts on the day. And, he'd thrown the 2 interceptions that were, deflections that, went Michigan's way. And they weren't rattled. And he wasn't rattled by the situation either. And we know when you lose Kendre Miller to an injury,
Yeah.
and you're having to rely on Amari DiMercato as your number one back, and DiMercato responded by giving you 17 for 150 by the time the day was done. But not having Kendre Miller forced him to go in other directions to try to figure out what to do. Yeah. And the receivers were there the whole time for him.
Yeah, the Kendre Miller injury I was a little concerned about because he was kind of the battering ram for TCU. And Max Dugan had to take some of that role on himself. And I'm hoping Miller will be able to play against Georgia for TCU's sake because that was a key injury. But again, TCU answered the call every time during this game. They weren't rattled. They weren't flustered. They executed flawlessly. And they've become much more physical as the year has transpired. And it's going to be a fun one to watch against Georgia.
Mm-hmm.
All I could hear during that game in my head was from Mike Tyson Punch-Out, body blow, body blow, body blow.
Yeah.
He's down for the count. Man.
The touchdown to Quentin Johnson, which kind of iced the game for TCU. I don't know how he got that open on a crossing pattern. And then all of a sudden he turned the corner and he was gone.
Yeah.
That kid just kept getting separation.
Yeah.
Props to them. Just the composure. I hope they get disrespected going into the championship game enough to be as fired up for that as they were for the playoff game. It's
going to be hard to disrespect the team that did what they did. We'll talk a little bit about the Georgia TCU matchup here in the second half of the show. We come back in the second half of the College Football X. We'll have a championship preview. But before we do that, and after we come out of the break, we'll talk a little bit about some of the other bowl games because there were some interesting games that happened over the course of this past week. All that more, we return for the second half of the College Football X.
Please like and subscribe.
Hey, I'm Willie Nelson. Thousands of veterans are living on our streets right now where they're being robbed, beaten, and even killed. And if this happened behind enemy lines, we'd be outraged. So please help us get our veterans into safe, permanent housing. Donate any amount at veteransmatter.org. Or you can text VET to 41444. They fought for us, and now we fight for them. Veterans Matter.
Warning. Orthopedic surgeons are seeing an increase in overuse injuries when young athletes perform the same repetitive stressful motions over and over. Pitching, tennis, weight training, even long swimming workouts can cause overuse trauma that may require surgery. If your kids play and train hard, visit orthoinfo.org or stopsportsinjuries.org. A message from the American Academy of Orthopedic Surgeons and the American Orthopedic Society for Sports Medicine.
It's on the way. No good. He hooked it. And Georgia is going to survive.
Thanks for hanging out, everybody, and making it through the break. You have reached the second half of the College Football X here on the OSG Sports Podcasting Network and featuring us, the online sports guys. Me, OSG Phil, him, OSG Wilkie, he, OSG Nelson.
Me, OSG Nelson. You speak English goodly.
And brother Marty in the corner as well. Guys, we talked about the marquee matchups on New Year's Eve, but there were a couple of other games that were pretty interesting. One of them happened at the Sugar Bowl where Alabama's Bryce Young put on what only could be described as one hell of a freaking show. 5 touchdown passes, 321 yards on only 15 completions.
The Houston Texans select Bryce Young,
exactly.
quarterback, Alabama.
You know, I saw Deuce Vaughn's touchdown run to make it 10-0, and I had to go run some errands. So I'm thinking, hey, Kansas State's got a puncher's shot in this game. How interested is Alabama? I come back at the fourth quarter, and I see it's, 35-10?
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, business as usual.
Yeah.
Yeah, the beginning of the game, my wife and I leave to go to Rudy's to get some barbecue. Before we get to Rudy's, they have two scores.
No doubt about it. Yeah, no doubt.
It's just down the road.
Yeah. Yeah, that was just, and there was an opportunity for Kansas State to put another couple of points on the board. It was a 4th and short. They were on a roll, and they went for it. I want to say it was like from the 3, and it was on 4th and goal, and they went for it, came up empty. I think the play was knocked out at the 1-yard line as they were trying to get to the corner of the end zone. Had that gone in for another 7, we might be talking about something a little different, because then you would have known that Bryce Young would have had to probably open up the offense a lot more that much sooner. But it ended up getting no points on the board, staying at 10. You don't even get the 3 if you had attempted a field goal. And then Alabama does a 98-yard drive the other way, and you could sense that momentum shifted from there.
It was game over, man. Game over at that point.
Yeah, we were all keeping up with current events at that point.
The other game on Saturday, the Trans Perfect Music City Bowl.
It was not perfect.
No, it wasn't, because it was Iowa and Kentucky, and Kentucky managed to go 4 quarters and scored exactly 0.
0 points.
I think Iowa scored twice on defense.
Exactly.
Yeah.
This was an offensively challenged game. And was this game worthy of the little protractor thing that we saw in Georgia, Ohio State? I think not.
It needed a compass instead of a protractor.
It needed something.
Bragging.
It was offensively challenged. I wasn't interested.
Yeah, I saw an online poll, who's going to win this game. And 2 of the options were Iowa's offense and Iowa's defense.
Defense for the win. I mean, two pick sixes for the Hawkeyes defense in the second quarter was really all they needed.
Well,
otherwise it would have been 7-0.
Yeah, well, and Brian Ferentz, after the game, he says, "I did the best I could do." Okay.
Jesus, I hate to see his worst.
Yeah. Well, and Kentucky also didn't have Will Levis, and so you had a quarterback that was.
Excuse.
And I know, but still, I mean, good night. You would have thought that with that kind of talent that was there in Kentucky, you don't have Will Levis, but man, that's just no. It was painful. It was an absolutely painful game, and I had 0 interest in watching it. And props to those of you who did, because you're braver than I am, unless you needed a nap.
Yeah,
they earned a medal.
Nap time yesterday.
Nope.
Goodness gracious.
It was not perfect by any stretch of the imagination.
Yeah, going back through the bowl games this week, Cap One Orange Bowl, an interesting result. Tennessee kind of laid a bit of a whooping on Clemson, 31-14.
They dominated throughout the game. I was really impressed with the Vols in this one.
Yeah.
And Joe Milton III may have put himself in the Heisman race. Who knows? With the performance he had. And Tennessee's fine at quarterback, and there's going to be they're going to be the challenger to Georgia. It looks like in the near future.
Yeah.
I mean, there was never any question that Joe Milton III could throw the football. The dude has probably the best arm in the NCAA in college football right now. The question was, could he actually complete a pass to somebody? And he proved it. 19 for 28, 251, and 3 touchdowns versus a good Clemson defense.
Yeah.
If you won the Duke's Mayo Bowl, we all know that Dave Doran was not a fan of mayo anyway. And Mike Loxley, he puts it on dry sandwiches because those tombstone lower thirds came up, I think, at least 2.5 times per coach the entire day. Mike Loxley, when he won the Duke's Mayo Bowl, he got to wear the supersized hat when they dumped the Old Bay and the mayo on top of him. Should coaches be allowed to wear the supersized hat if you're going to get mayo dumped on you?
I got a kick out of that.
Yeah, I don't think anybody should have been rewarded for that game. That final score is 16-12.
Yeah, it was an awful game.
No, it was an awful game.
Yeah, it looks like Clemson's problem isn't their quarterback.
Yeah. No, there's a lot of other issues with Clemson for the quarterback, but for those of you once again that needed a nap, the Duke's Mayo Bowl was definitely your game.
Another good game on Friday. Notre Dame with a nice win over South Carolina in the Gator Bowl, 45-38.
Yeah.
Complete with banners flying over.
I mean, you got to give South Carolina a lot of credit. They didn't, they had the early lead. They were up 24-17 at the half. They'd forced Tyler Buckner into a couple of really costly mistakes. But at the same time, you got to give Marcus Freeman a lot of credit for Notre Dame coming back 28 points in the third and fourth quarter. And it was one of the more entertaining games of the last week, just because of how crazy it got at points there at the Gator Bowl.
Well, and Tyler Buckner was much more comfortable in the second half. Had some success, a lot of success, and was the difference for Notre Dame. That was an entertaining game, and there is hope in Columbia, South Carolina, because Shane Beamer has got things going in the right direction. For Notre Dame, you gotta like how Marcus Freeman closed out the year. We weren't so certain about him at the beginning of the year.
No,
but the way they closed out the year, all right, he's worthy of being the Notre Dame head coach, and he's going to get some players, and Notre Dame is going to be heard from, and in the near future.
Yeah, well, look at what next year they're going to have Sam Hartman as their quarterback.
Right.
Do we know that yet? Is that official? Is that or are you tampering, sir?
No.
Are you tampering?
The portaling has been made official, to my knowledge.
Because there was talk that because Notre Dame was already saying that Sam Hartman was heading that way, that they were saying so somewhat prematurely, and now other college coaches are saying Notre Dame is cheating. You can't say those kinds of things. You can't do that. A college football program cheating when it comes to a quarterback and a portal?
No.
Come on now. That never happened.
Yeah. Some other games of interest over the course of the week. Florida State gets the win in the Cheez-It Bowl. They take down Oklahoma 35-32 in a pretty good game.
Yeah.
Well, Florida State needs to be thanking God that, John, you didn't come down to the basement while we were watching the game at your house. It's all credit to you.
Absolutely. I mean, full disclosure. We had the in between Christmas New Year's party here at Office HD, and there were two floors that were working. The Office HD here off to my left, camera left and my left, that had all the bowl games on the entire time. And so when it got to the point to where Florida State was being successful, I was told that I could not be on the basement. So I literally had to leave Office HD, go up to the main level, and not watch the bowl game so my alma mater could have a chance at coming back against the team that they should have beat. Because this is a game where, and we all face this with our favorite teams, this is a game that was a no-win situation, frankly, because you had 9-3 versus 6-6. It's a game that you're supposed to win. If you win it, you're like, yeah, it's a game you're supposed to win. If you lose it, you never hear the end of it. And so Florida State basically did what they were supposed to do. It's a 10-win season, and Oklahoma 6-7. And I want to know what Oklahoma does in the offseason to try to combat being 6-7.
It's true.
Some rebuilding out there in
They
Norman.
don't like losing seasons in the Sooner State.
That is true.
Speaking of the Great Southwest, in the Valero Alamo Bowl, Washington gets the win over Texas, 27-20. Texas is definitely not back again.
Yeah, I think Karma really smacked them. I don't know if you guys saw the before when they were still sitting in the tunnel.
Yeah.
You know,
Oh,
you
that!
have the production assistants that make sure they don't run out before everything's ready. And I mean, you didn't need a translator to read the coach's lips. What he said
No,
to
Sark
that
was a
guy.
little upset, let's say.
And props to that guy that was down there coordinating. He did not get rattled at all, and he would have been totally justified to say something back because he was way out of line. Yeah, there was a similar shot for Michigan, and you saw Harbaugh turn to the kid that was, telling him to wait, and he just said, "Okay, let me know." Nice and simple.
Yeah, but Sark, and for those of you, honestly, you don't need to have graduated your lip reading 501 class to see what Sark was saying, and it was frankly incredibly uncalled for. And yeah, I don't care if you're game fired up or not. You've got to be in control in those situations, and I have yet to see anything come out of Austin revolving anything around an apology for Sark trying to tear into a production assistant in a bowl game.
But the savior is coming to Austin next year.
I thought they got the kid from the transfer portal already with the mullet.
Arch Manning.
They've got the savior coming.
Arch Manning.
The third generation of Mannings.
Yes.
The only thing worse than the coach was the announcer from the Duke's Mayo Bowl when referring to the score down there who used I'm trying to think of a nice way to put this so I don't get myself in trouble.
Oh, the North Carolina State radio guy.
Oh,
yeah, there's a job opening.
There will be.
Oh,
on
Gary
their radio
Hahn?
crew.
Yeah, there better be
Currently.
a job opening after that. Yeah, the audio's out there, and it was completely and totally just stupid.
Got to talk about arguably the most dramatic game, besides maybe the Georgia-Ohio State game, in the whole College Bowl playoff marathon. Arkansas gets the win over Kansas, 55-53.
Oh my God!
That was unbelievable. I gave up on that game. We stopped watching.
Wilkie?
Yeah, I defer.
It was crazy. It was crazy. And it was crazy. You know me, I was expecting Kansas to blow us out. Half our defensive players were not playing in the game. But it's a bowl game.
Yeah.
And the crazy things happen in bowl games. And Arkansas, they tend to have these type of games in bowl games, don't they? KJ Jefferson was just a man possessed in this game. And I was just in awe, especially in the overtimes. So I'll take the win.
After a game like that, Sam Pittman needs a whole case of cold beer.
No, what was the over for that game?
What was the over?
Let me check the total. Talk amongst yourselves. I'll find a total.
Well, I know that Sam Pittman needs to find a defensive coordinator.
Yeah.
Because Barry Odom's in Las Vegas now.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's a top tier Big 12 defense, giving up those kind of points.
Exactly.
That's a championship. That's a Big 12 championship level defense.
Oh my God.
And in the bowl game that mattered to me, the Georgia Southern Eagles go down a defeat to the Buffalo Bulls, 23-21 in the Camilla Bowl, that left the Georgia Southern fans not so unhappy about the game result, but really pissed off about how poorly organized the game was.
It was. It was.
Okay. They really got to get ESPN out of this stuff.
Yeah.
Well,
So you go to these bowl games. I went to 2 so far, about to go to a 3rd on Monday. You look at you walk up to the stadium, there's no signage of like where the fan zone is. Like I go to SMU, there's no signs anywhere. There's no like go park here. TCU is the same thing last year. You go to the gift shop. The stuff I saw at the Frisco Bowl was carbon copies of what I saw at, the Armed Services Bowl. I mean, not the Armed Services Bowl, but the First Responder Bowl.
Yeah.
The matchup footballs had stickers on them.
Ugh.
Take one sticker off, put one sticker on.
Exactly.
And everything was just cookie cutter. I mean, it was kind of sad. I'd like to see them get local control of these bowl games again, just so they could actually put some flair in it. And it was same stuff at every bowl game.
Brought to you by the 4-letter events.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not shocked.
Yeah,
I'm juiced for going to the Cotton Bowl because they do things right. They have stuff all week long. Today, in a couple hours, they're gonna have a battle of the bands. It's free, so like anybody wants to take their kids down there, they can go down to the stadium, check it all out.
For $7, you too could attend the game.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, if you're in the DFW area, hit us up in the comments. I've got 2 extra tickets. Buy me a soda. We'll call it even.
There you go.
Soda and a hot pretzel. There's 2 tickets.
There you go.
Okay. That'll be fun. So yeah, keep talking. I'm still trying to find the odds, the total for Arkansas and Kansas. So keep talking amongst yourself. Thank you.
Well, there you go.
I haven't covered every single
The
game.
dogs.
You just keep my dogs to start barking.
Well, John asked us to talk.
So Iowa scored less points for the total game than they did in quarters for some of these games.
Yeah. Now we went through that. Apparently, in half of the games of this season, they did not clear 21 points as a rule.
Wow.
Yeah, and I think their defense may have outscored the offense this season.
Yeah, and
That is a stat.
and sure enough, Brian Ferentz did the best he could. Yes, exactly.
Is he going to survive?
Oh,
Like,
of
is his
course he
dad?
is.
How much can your dad protect you?
The total was 70.5 for Kansas and Arkansas.
They
70
blew
and a
that
half.
away.
Yeah, 70.5 was your total. So yeah, there was no issue with that whatsoever. Had to go to my third source to figure that out because everybody's looking forward at the CFP championship game that it's already a 2-touchdown margin for a disrespected TCU team.
Yeah, that's what I was going to get to next here as we kind of wrap up our bowl wrap up. Looking ahead to the Monday, January 9th championship game in SoFi Stadium in beautiful downtown Inglewood, California.
Downtown Inglewood,
Always
California.
up to no good.
Yes.
TCU and Georgia, guys, who wins the game, how, and why?
TCU covers, Georgia wins, take the over. I think it turns into a shootout again because as we've seen in the CFP semifinals, defense is secondary. And if offenses can program their way around the defensive talent that's on display, you're going to get PS3 numbers. I think it's going to happen again. It might take a quarter for it to warm up. Might be some weird score at the end of the first, like 3-3, 7-7, something like that. But I think that it'll open up. So I'm going to go Georgia repeats, TCU covers, take the total, take the over. And Tulane beats USC in the Cotton Bowl.
All right. Well, I'm going to go with TCU winning this because this is a team that's not afraid of the moment. Neither is Georgia. But, I wonder if Georgia is going to pay attention to what they saw in the Fiesta Bowl, that TCU team that dominated the line. And that's what they have to do to beat Georgia. And when they've needed to answer the call, they have. And I love how opportunistic that TCU defense is. And then you've got a next level quarterback at TCU and Max Duggan, who, again, answers the call every time. And if they can get that running back, I think that bodes well for the Horned Frogs. This is the team of destiny that, this is the NC State of 1983, the Villanova of 1985. This is what college football is needed for these playoffs. We've talked about the Cinderella aspect ad nauseum when we've talked about these playoffs. Well, this is the closest we've had now with TCU. Feel good story. Didn't even win the conference championship, and yet here they are. So I'm going with TCU in this one. I think it's going to be close. I think it's going to be in the 40s. I think Stetson Bennett's going to do some great things, but I just think TCU is a team of destiny and gets the job done.
Marty, what do you think?
I'm agreeing with him. Depending on the surprise graphics, maybe possible new rules in the officiating overall. But I mean, you got two likable quarterbacks going against each other, which is a nice change. There's no real villain for this game. And I think, depending on how TCU, if they're looking at the game film and they're seeing what Ohio State did to get those D linemen gassed, I mean, you saw the best D lineman out there for Georgia had hands on his hips and he was panting. And they didn't stop him, but they really took a big chunk out of him throughout that game. If they can steal some of that, I think they could squeak this.
Yeah, I look for a high-scoring game too. I like Georgia. I think it's going to be something like a 47-45 kind of instant classic. Georgia did not play anywhere close to their best game against Ohio State, but some of that had to do with how well Ohio State was prepared for the game. TCU, totally impressed. Like Wilkie said, I loved what they did. It's hard to root against a team like that. They've got some pretty damn good athletes on that football team. Quentin Johnson's a beast at wide receiver. But I think Georgia's got enough to overcome that. I don't think they're going to make some of the same mistakes. I think that it almost looked a little bit like they weren't sure what Ohio State was going to come out and do against them in the semifinals, and it took them a little while to figure it out. Once they started running blitzes in the fourth quarter, it made a difference. I think that depth and the ability to bring people from everywhere will make a difference in this game. I hate to sound like the homer picking Georgia to win, but I think that they will. But I don't think we're going to forget this game for a long, long time.
I'm curious about the venue.
Mm-hmm.
With this game being played in LA, I think it kind of swings the pendulum a little bit to TCU because Georgia's done this, with the exception of last year, pretty much in the region. It helped playing at Mercedes-Benz last night. For the Bulldogs. So I think that's going to be a factor too. I think, Marty, you mentioned there's the fan base of TCU's got to step up.
Remember
travel.
That Oklahoma
they do not travel.
And they don't have that many alums outside of Texas.
Yeah.
So
Wilkie, remember 2017 when they played Oklahoma in the Rose Bowl?
Yeah.
Semifinals, and they came back in that absolute dogfight shootout.
Yeah.
I don't think the venue's going to make that big. The location's going to make much of a difference.
I think it is. I think it is because they had the comfort of Mercedes-Benz. I think it helps TCU because the fact that, hey, they went out to Glendale, Arizona, and the moment wasn't too big for them. I think they're going to have that same feeling out in LA. I think Georgia, I think it's going to be a little different for them. I'm not saying it's going to be the difference of the game, but I think I find it interesting, the venue, LA. And how does it resonate in the city? We saw a few years ago when Clemson and Alabama played in San Francisco. It didn't really resonate well there. They still had seats sell. They were still selling seats game time.
It's gonna be 80% Georgia fans there, 10% people that are influencers taking selfies, and then 10% TCU fans.
Yeah.
The Georgia fans will come. That's never a problem for them. They will travel, and they will be there.
Get in price $681 just to get in the door right now.
Right now.
Right now.
Expect that price to go up as we get closer to Monday, guys. That does it for this episode of the College Football X. We will come out for one more season wrap-up show here, probably after the championship game, guys. What do you think?
Sure.
Sounds good to me.
But quickly, I'm taking Tulane
There
on
you
Monday,
go. There
and
it
I'm
is.
taking Utah.
There. Ooh.
Now, I do need some advice for what I'm going to wear to that game. Do I wear an Ohio State jersey and hold up a thank you card for USC choking in their previous game?
There you go.
Or do I just rock XFL stuff?
Ooh. Huh. See, now that's you're either forward thinking.
Because it's coming up. We're waiting for the schedule.
Yeah, no, you're either forward thinking. Well, can you do like one half and have the XFL stuff underneath, and so that way you can jettison like you do to halftime you change clothes, do the Superman bit. Can you do that?
Yeah, do a half front and back jersey and just spin it.
There you go.
All right, guys, got to wrap things up here.
Dogs are barking. The dogs are barking.
Hopefully you had a great New Year's Eve like we did, and a great New Year's Day like we did, because we're recording this show.
Yep.
Thanks for tuning in. We will be back again probably at some point next week. For Brother Wilkie, for Brother John, for Brother Marty, I am Brother Phil. We are the OSG sports team, the online sports guys, if you will. Thank you, everybody, and so long.
Please like and subscribe.